Alex, I spent 3 hours yesterday digging a splinter out of my palm with a pair of dull tweezers, and it occurred to me the universe has a very funny way of reminding you that you aren't the apex predator in your own shop.
Only you could find a philosophical breakthrough in a piece of wayward white oak. Was it a poetic splinter, at least?
It was a humbling one. It felt like the wood was lodging a formal protest against my sanding technique. But it's a new week. We're kicking off July, the humidity is high enough to make my glue up sweat, and we've got a lot to chew on today. We're talking about robots taking over the welding booth and the new wave of kids coming in to save us from ourselves.
And don't forget the floor. You showed me those photos earlier. I'm still not sure if I want to walk on a floor that looks like a rainforest or if I'd just be constantly terrified of tripping over a holographic fern.
We'll get to the 3D jungle soon enough. But first, let's talk about these mechanical shopmates. There's a new piece of kit from MSC called the Techrom Easy Welder. It's a dual station cobot. And before you roll your eyes, Alex, this isn't some sci-fi replacement for a human hand.
I'm not rolling my eyes. I'm just wondering, does it have a name? Does it complain about the heat? Because if it doesn't complain, it's not a real welder.
It doesn't complain, but it definitely works harder than I did in my 20s. The genius here is the dual station setup. The robot is burning wire on station A, while you, the fleshy, coffee-drinking human, are over at station B, unclamping the finished piece and loading up the next jig. By the time you've wiped the sweat off your brow, it's finished and swinging back toward you.
So it's basically a dance partner that never steps on your toes. But honestly, Tiger, is this actually for the little guy, or is this just more gear for the giants building data centers?
That's the pivot. The big players in the Fab 40 are obsessed with AI and power infrastructure right now, but these cobots are trickling down. It's about taking the drudgery out of the repeat work. If I have to weld 50 identical brackets, my brain starts to turn into mashed potatoes by the 20th one. My welds start looking like a bird with a stomach flu visited the shop. The robot, its 50th weld looks exactly like its first.
A bird with a stomach flu. I'm putting that on a t-shirt. Speaking of new blood in the shop, though, I saw that stat about Gen Z. 60% are looking at the trades. That is a massive shift from the everyone needs a 4-year degree speech we all got.
It's a beautiful sight, Alex. For a long time, it felt like we were the last of the Mohicans, just a bunch of us guys with graying beards holding onto the wrenches. But these kids are coming in, and they aren't just looking for a paycheck, they want a roadmap.
Right, because the old just stand there and watch me until you don't suck method of teaching isn't exactly a modern management style.
Exactly. I grew up in the era where training meant getting yelled at for holding the flashlight at the wrong angle. But if we want to keep this momentum, especially with stuff like the new plumbing bills down in Louisiana, we have to be mentors, not just bosses. They want milestones. They want to know that if they master their KPIs, customer satisfaction, job speed, whatever, there's a clear path from holding the pipe to running the crew.
It sounds like you're saying shop owners need to trade in their grumpy old man cards for something a bit more professional.
Well, let's not get carried away. A little grumpiness builds character. But seriously, if you've got 30 years of grease under your fingernails, don't let that knowledge die with you. Document it, build a program. These kids are hungry, but they don't want to guess what success looks like.
Okay, let's shift gears to the Maker Mogul segment. We get a lot of emails from people who love the craft but hate their day jobs. Shopify just dropped their 2026 trends. What's actually moving the needle this year?
It's all about the high touch factor. People are tired of mass-produced plastic junk that breaks if you look at it sideways. If you're looking to sell, think small, but premium. Enamel pins and jewelry are huge because shipping costs won't eat your lunch. But my favorite? Specialized consumables.
Like the post-construction muscle recovery bath bombs? I thought you were joking when I read that in the notes.
I wasn't joking. I'd buy a crate of those right now. My lower back feels like a bag of dry ramen noodles.
But that's the point, isn't it? You're not just selling a bath bomb. You're selling a solution to a specific person's problem. A niche, as the marketing folks call it.
Precisely. If you make a bowl, it's just a bowl. If you make a slow-cured walnut bowl for midnight sourdough proofing, you've got a brand. And don't sleep on digital products. If you've spent weeks perfecting a CNC file for a foldable workbench, sell that file. You build it once, and it earns money while you're busy trying to find where you left your tape measure for the 10th time today.
Which brings us to the most ambitious DIY project I've heard of in a while. The 3D jungle epoxy floor. Tiger, explain this to me like I'm 5 because it sounds like a recipe for a very expensive mess in my hallway.
It is a high stakes game. I'll give you that. You aren't just painting the floor, you're creating a literal window. You start with a perfectly prepped concrete slab, and I mean perfectly. If there's a speck of dust or a drop of oil, the epoxy will reject it like a bad organ transplant.
So prep is 90% of the work. Where does the jungle come in?
You lay down a high-res image or a base coat with your textures, and then you pour the flood coat. It's this thick, crystal clear resin that gives it that deep 3D look, but here's the kicker, bubbles.
The enemy of all things smooth.
They're like tiny saboteurs. You have to walk around with a blowtorch or a heat gun, gently coaxing them to the surface. It's a bit like being a mad scientist. One wrong move, and you've got a permanent bubble over your favorite holographic Jaguar. But when it works, it looks like you've ripped a hole in the earth and found a hidden paradise under your laundry room.
I feel like if I did that, I'd never want to put furniture on it. I'd just sit on the wall and stare at the floor.
And that's the maker's curse, Alex. You spend 100 hours making something beautiful, and then you're too afraid to use it for 6 months.
So, what's the big takeaway for the week, Tiger, before we all head out to buy robots and jungle floors?
The world is changing fast, but the soul of the work is the same. Whether you're using a dual-station cobot or a hand plane, it's about that moment of transition, taking a pile of raw materials and turning them into something that didn't exist yesterday. Don't be afraid of the new tech, but don't lose that high-touch human connection that makes someone want to buy your work in the first place.
Spoken like a man who just survived a white oak splinter.
It barely hurt. I barely cried at all.
Liar. Thanks for hanging out with us in the den today, everyone. Go build something legendary, watch out for bubbles, and for the love of all things holy, hold your flashlight steady.
We'll see you in the shop. Stay sharp.